Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are live here. This is Raisa Kiwala, the divorced Muslim coach, and another episode of Weekly Wisdom. And today we have a very special guest, one of my special colleagues. Her name is Melissa Frost-Ford, and she is going to be taking us through the understanding of what is going on underneath a panic attack. And Melissa is one of my colleagues at Back to the Fitrah Mentoring Academy. And as a Back to the Fitrah mentor, she uses her own journey with panic attacks and anxiety. And she is very passionate about helping others to gain inner peace and tranquility from her own journey. Welcome, Melissa. How are you?
I'm good. Jazakallah khair. I'm so happy to be here today.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. And I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you, particularly because I will say, like, sometimes you don't know when you're having a panic attack. And I felt that way. And we're going to go into this in terms of unpacking what does it look like, how can you tell, because it can get confused, as many other different things as people have shared with us, such as like heart attacks or cardiac events. So I'm really looking to hear from you as the expert on this, with all of your experience and with your understanding. What is really going on with the panic attack? What does it have to do with anxiety? Because it can feel like you're having a heart attack. It could feel like you're dying, and many have explained it as a terrifying experience, debilitating how you show up in life. So just as a brief overview, and I know you know all this because of your own journey and experience, so I'm looking forward to hearing your firsthand story. And we are going to kind of unpack a little bit how anxiety manifests. Like, what is anxiety? How does it manifest? How to spot it? And is it possible to neutralize it and reset? And what does that look like? So I guess with that said, why don't we start with this title that you so eloquently phrased, panic attacks, anxiety with a special effect. So can you break that down for us a little bit? And feel free to just sprinkle in your own story, while you're unpacking what a panic attack is and what it has to do with anxiety for us.
Absolutely. So I can actually take credit for that title. This was something that I heard in a speech, and it was actually one of those like aha moments where I finally saw a different angle to anxiety, where I saw what a panic attack was, how my anxious thinking actually had a role to play in this physiological response that I was having. And subhanallah, for years, like when I first had my panic attack, I'm gonna age myself here, but it was in like dial-up internet days. Like there were not cell phones like readily available, so it was a time when there wasn't as much information out there about what a panic attack is. Even anxiety, mental health wasn't something that was readily discussed. And so for me, when I first had my like that experience of a panic attack and I was going to specialists, they were categorizing it as anxiety and an anxiety attack. I'm like, but that's not what happened to me. Like that. And I kept saying, that's not what happened to me. And the more I would go to specialists and the more they would say, no, you're just having like generalized anxiety, the more I was like, I am broken beyond the world. Like nobody understands me. Like I felt like it was bigger than what anybody knew. And it wasn't until 2 years after I had my first panic attack where I learned the difference between a panic attack and an anxiety attack. But before I unpack that, I'll just explain what my first panic attack was like, because I think it's something that a lot of people maybe don't know about or have experienced it. I mean, everybody experiences a bit differently. So for me, it was at the time where my grandfather had just passed away. I was in a very depressed state. I had always been a child that had a tendency to overthink things. So, I overplanned, overthought, was constantly worrying. I thought if I planned out my life and planned everything out, then I knew every possible outcome. And so when he died, I was like, just, it threw off my whole world. And at the time, I was also having a crisis of faith because I was a Christian at the time and it wasn't fitting with my belief system. And I was very confused. So I remember just being in bed thinking about death. And I had this thought process that went to like, if I die right now, like if I'm dying right now, my parents can't stop it. And I went into this like whole panicky, just I was breathing heavily. I was really like struggling to catch my breath. So I remember thinking to myself, okay, stop thinking about this. Like, don't think about this, change the thought, go somewhere else. So I was trying to force my thinking into another way. And so I ended up like trying to focus on that pretty scene or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was trying to sort of divert myself. And then all of a sudden, in this like peaceful calm I felt, it was like I was hit in, like, it's like I ran into a wall of anxiety. Like it was just boom. And my heart was like pounding out of my chest. So I thought, I'm having a heart attack. Like something really bad is happening to me. The world, I used to say when I described what a panic attack felt like, I would say it feels like I'm not here. It felt like the world slowed down, and yet my thoughts were going so fast. I was hyper aware of my surroundings, and yet I couldn't even grasp at anything. Like it was just very chaotic. And my body didn't feel like my body. It felt different. I had this odd sensation that I couldn't feel myself, yet I could. And as somebody who had never heard about panic attacks, I didn't know what they were. I was very young and I was home alone at the time. I remember just like running through the house trying to figure out what to do, how to make myself feel something. And I ended up like digging my nails into my arm, just kind of like, can I feel this? And I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling that sensation. So for whatever reason, I decided to go to the refrigerator. I opened the freezer, grabbed some ice, put it on my arm, and held it there. And I was holding this ice there for longer than I should have been able to hold the ice there. And I ended up screaming because the pain all of a sudden came like it was an excruciating pain. And I had this massive welt on my arm from the ice because I was holding it there for like too long. I broke into this heap of sobs and I'm like, what just happened to me? And I had no concept of time. I don't know how long this took. It felt like it lasted forever. And for weeks after, I was in this fog of, I'm broken, like help me. And the more I was going to therapists and doctors, like my family doctor had no clue. She's like, I don't know what's wrong with you. You need help. And so, your doctor telling you you need help, you're like, uh-oh, right? It's scary for like, I was a preteen, like you're going to somebody you trust and they're saying you're broken. So I started going to psychiatrists and psychologists. And maybe it's because I was from a small town and people didn't know about much about anxiety then, but they kept saying, you're just having anxiety attacks. And what the definition of like an anxiety attack is, it's basically, it's like a step-by-step thing. So I've had anxiety attacks. An anxiety attack is basically thought upon thought upon thought upon thought, and it's building, and you're feeling it building, and it's building, and it's building, and it's building. Eventually you do have like a physiological response. We do sweat, we maybe our heart is palpitating, we do get to that like to a trigger point, but it is very different from a panic attack. And I kept saying to them, like, this is not what I'm having, this is not my life. Like I'm in I thought I was in these moments of calm, these moments of nothing's happening, and then boom, I'm having this like massive response. So I ended up getting hospitalized, and after a week in the hospital, they put me in an outpatient program. So I was able to go home, but I had to come back every day. And the program was for anxiety and panic attacks, and that was the first time I'd ever heard, what is a panic attack? So they broke it down for me, and understanding the physiological aspect helped significantly, but it still wasn't the full solution. But what happens in a panic attack is our bodies are naturally meant to fight or flight in a dangerous situation. So let's say like a car is coming at you full on, or a lion is about to jump and pounce at you. You don't have the time for your body to say, okay, Melissa, you need to move now. Like, you just have to move now. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us with this actual gift. It's a gift where we automatically flight. Like, it's just, it happens. And when that happens,
Instinctual, like there's nothing to
yeah,
think about. Boom, it's just like no thinking, you just do
no
it.
thinking. Yeah, it's just it's an innate thing within us that will happen. And it's a chemical response. So hormones are released in this moment. So they call it fight or flight because adrenaline pumps in your system. So you have this like massive release, and it's automatic. So it's a massive release of adrenaline. We have blood pumping, pumping, pumping through our system. So our muscles can gain more strength, can move. Our sugar is also elevated. So like all of these things are happening. So your body is physically like ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to move. Um, Also, we tend to have, our breathing tends to be a little bit odd. So our breathing will become faster in these moments, yet it's very shallow. And we tend to hold our breath more and not release. We're like, so you can move. Like, we're trying to get as much oxygen into our bodies to move. And the point of this is, like I said, for an emergency. But what happens in a panic attack, you have this response and you're going, nothing's happening. I'm not being attacked. There's no lion coming at me. There's no car coming at me. What's going on? And so our body is going, danger, danger, danger. And our mind is going, I'm sitting here doing absolutely nothing. And like, if you look at, for example, like a natural disaster, right, where there's something major has happened and there's like a rock on a person, and you see somebody has this like strength to lift up the rock, like beyond their ability to really do it naturally in a day-to-day situation. That's because there's so much that's gone into our bodies. There's so much pumping. So as this is flowing through our bodies, we have this buildup of energy, and it takes approximately, they say it takes about 10 minutes, but sometimes it can take longer for our bodies to just kind of, that chemical release to come down. But when we don't know what's happened, it feels like your world has ended. It feels like everything has shifted. You don't know what's going on. And it's really, really a very scary place to be when you don't understand the physical and also the mental aspect of it.
Yeah, I'm just absorbing all of that explanation that you just, landed on us and shared with us. You explained it so well, what it feels like, what's happening, the internal chaos, even when there's not external chaos going on, but this chaotic world is ensuing within you, making it seem like it's the end of the world, if we can imagine that type of chaos. And listening to you, some of the things that I picked up on was you mentioned something about, I'm just going to say this and then I'll let you take it from how you want to take it from there. And one thing I must say is, like, knowing you and being on this journey together of going through the Back to the Fitrah Mentoring Academy, and you being both of us being certified Back to the Fitrah mentors and educators, of how, like, just looking at you and how, knowing how much you've gone through, what you've gone through, like you're here strong, resilient, confident, and sharing your journey and your story with such poise, shows the level of healing and overcoming that you have had, Melissa. And I'm pointing that out because a lot of people struggle with anxiety and with panic attacks and just stifling you, or almost feeling like it's choking you and just debilitating you, and that there is hope. There is hope. Like, it's not, you can come out of that situation and those experiences. So I just wanted to point that out for all of the lovely people who are giving you all of these hearts on Facebook. And we have Pamela who's joined us, Rahma, Amy's here, Farah Husseini. Just wanted to say salam and acknowledge Mubina Mirza, acknowledge all the people who are with us, Khadija, Kamal, who are listening to you and your story and giving you all these hearts. And Bien, Aisha, Pamela saying, two of my favorite people. Thanks for sharing your story, Melissa. So Rahma says, what is the strongest tool to battle with anxiety? And I think you're gonna go there, Melissa. So hang on. Rahma, she's getting there. How do we manage our relationship with family members? That's another thing. I'll keep track of these so we can make sure we address this. Yes, and Rahma saying there is hope. And maybe you can touch on that part about the hope too. But I want to come back to something you mentioned about you are having a lot of the panic attacks were always being told to you, like, you're just having anxiety, you're just having anxiety, that's what's happening. And you're like, wait a minute, I've had anxiety before, but this is different. And you said something about anxious thinking, and you said something about being broken. So I want you to see if you can tie that in to the anxious thinking, the feeling like you're broken, and other people telling you that perhaps that you're broken, and
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah. Well, so just love here for what you said, by the way. I actually, when I was kind of preparing for this, subhanAllah, something that came up for me was how I couldn't even talk about anxiety before. Like, so that in itself is something huge. Like, I couldn't talk about it with like a girlfriend by myself, let alone talk about it in front of a bunch of people. Like, I was just at the point where it was something that I couldn't even express. So subhanallah, there is hope, when you gain the understanding of how our thinking works, when you see that in relation to this. And subhanallah, for me, I think the moment where it kind of came together, the moment where I saw, um just, I understood the physiological aspect of it, and I was learning about how our mental, how our minds worked and how our thinking worked. But I always had in the back of my head, like, as I was going through this process, I was like, well, anxiety is different. Like, I understand it's the inside out paradigm, but this is the exception to the rule, because there's something physically happening to me. Like, it was like this massive physical thing, and it seems to kind of happen out of the blue. And so that made me feel like, in this very hopeless, like, I'm never going to actually get out of this, even when I have this understanding, and there was kind of a disconnect there. And there was two
It's
things
like the yeah, but it's like the yeah, but
yeah,
of our
yeah,
of our ego thing. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, yeah, but.
exactly. And I had gone through a lot of those, but this one was really sticking. I was like, no, there's no, there's no exception to this. This is just different. And I was so stubborn with it because I couldn't see it in any other light. It had been I felt like anxiety for me was a life sentence. Like, this panic attacks was a life sentence. I was going to have this forever, and I was going to suffer with it forever. I felt like it was just my lot in life to suffer through panic attacks. And I remember one day I'm speaking with somebody, and she said to me, she said two things. She said, do you believe that when you are going outside and you're outside and you're in public, like, do you believe that you are okay because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control? And I said, well, yes, because Allah is in control. Like, I do believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control, right? And she's like, okay, but are you actually living that? Like, are you actually putting your tawakkul in him, or you're putting it in yourself? And you think you're controlling the situation and you're controlling the outcome. And I sat there and I was like, whoa, like, am I really putting my trust in Allah? And so I was like, yeah. And I was kind of caught in that thought process. And she said, and have you made dua for your panic attacks to stop? And I went, and I was about to say yes, right? And I went, no. Like, I really realized, like, as much dua as I'd made over, I think I'd been Muslim maybe for 9 years at that point, I'd never made dua for help with this. I'd never made dua to gain wisdom or clarity or anything in this. And so I had that moment of making that dua, like, just a night of dua. I stayed up all night making dua, dua, dua. I was just in tears. And the next day I woke up and I was folding laundry. I had this podcast on, and I can't remember who it was, but there was a gentleman, a psychologist, was talking, and he said something in the middle of the lecture, and it was very nonchalant. Like, he just kind of jumped over it, and I rewinded it like 10 times. He said, panic attacks are nothing more than a thought with a special effect. And I was like, yes, anxiety with a special effect. That's exactly what it is. It's my anxious thinking having a special effect. Because I remember years ago when I was learning about anxiety, they explained it to me this way. They said most people are at like kind of this base level of anxiety, right? So just kind of a base level of living. They're not living in anxiety, in anxious thinking. So when they're anxious, they kind of just blup like this, like a little bit, right? But you're up here. So even at your low points, you don't get to their high points of anxiety. You're already at a heightened level of anxiety. So when your anxiety is high, our bodies are naturally still producing extra chemicals. Those hormones are still being
Cortisol,
produced.
yeah.
because we're constantly in that state of fear. We're constantly caught in that cycle of thinking. So when we're up here, it makes sense that in those moments of calm, we're still not anywhere close to that average sort of level of high anxiety. So of course, it's very easy to go into a panic attack because our bodies are naturally already stimulated. And so those thoughts are creating that response. And that in itself just shifted everything for me, because for a long time, I was trying to ponder the fact that, we're souls in a body, right? But we're not two separate things. We are one in this dunya. Like in the next life, we're souls. Okay, but here we're in a body. So our thoughts have an effect on our physiological response. Like they work together. We're one organic being. And this to me gave me so much hope. I could see it, and I could see it so clearly from such a different angle. And just I had so much gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for showing me that.
Thank you for sharing that, Melissa, because I think that we get caught up in the problem and how to solve it and fix it. We forget who has the answer. We forget the source. We forget the source of where our solutions are going to come from because we're in the thick of it and we carry it all where we're not meant to. And just that turning back to Allah in like humility and desperation and reliance. I mean, look, that's all it takes to turn back and then to be guided or rightly guided and rewarded for that return back. And then on and on and on in that journey. But in the thick of it, we can lose sight of that. So I want to really say thank you for sharing that, because I think it's really important. That is the starting point. No matter what we're experiencing, how horrible it feels, the suffering that we're going through, that there always is hope, because Allah tells us that, and that's the starting point. So that's really important, and thank you for sharing that. Amy and Pamela are saying that that's really profound thought with a special effect, and panic attacks are only anxiety with the special effect. I guess it takes the edge off when you start to look at it from a different perspective. Is that true?
Absolutely, because when it seems like something that's so out of your control, like it just seems something so, it seems almost bigger than yourself. Like it just seems something that's happening to you instead of something you're experiencing. When you see it as something you're experiencing, like I have had panic attacks now with this understanding, because I went to a place of being really lost and I was kind of in muddy water and I was in this thought pattern and I had a panic attack in this different space. And through the panic attack, once you're in that point, you have to ride the wave of it. It's the chemicals are released, it's happening, right? You just have to just let it be, because it is what it is. But I gave myself the space of feeling what I was feeling in that moment, feeling the emotions, feeling the physical things that were happening to me, giving myself that like loving care of, I'm okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not burden me with more than I can bear. So I can bear this. And that is a very different perspective from before, where this is happening to me, I can't deal with this. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't burden us with more than we can bear. I can bear this. I'm meant to bear this. There's a reason for me having this. And there's a wisdom here if I'm willing to see it. But am I willing to see it? Am I willing to really look inside me and say, what is Allah trying to teach me through this? Because I'm not going to experience this for nothing, because nothing in this life is for nothing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has this perfect plan. And so if I am experiencing a panic attack, it's because there's something I'm meant to learn from this. But so long I had blinders on of like, poor me, I'm broken, I'm in this, like I was in like the depths of despair. I said so often, I'm not here. I would say I feel like I'm floating out of my body. I had all of these things going on. It didn't give me the opportunity to open the doors to possibility through it, to open the doors to loving myself through it, to giving myself the space to see what Allah is wanting to teach me through this, and to remember to turn to Him, because He's the only one we're meant to turn to. He created me to have these panic attacks. That means I'm meant to have it. And so if I'm meant to have this, I can get through it, and I'm strong enough to get through it, and I'm resilient enough to get through it. And that is a huge change in my life.
Yeah, yeah. SubhanAllah, there's so much wisdom that you just dropped with us, and you're getting all these hearts, thumbs ups. Um, And Marwa is joining us. And no worries, Pamela. We know what you meant. Um, one of the things that I want to really leave anyone who's listening to this with is um, you talked about this understanding. You keep saying this understanding and where you are now. And I want you to share a little bit about what are you talking about? What shifted? And I'd like you to share that, with our audience here, because not everybody is familiar with this understanding that we have, or that we've been educated on and trained and mentored on, and that we're helping others now with. But share a little bit about that. And also, in relation to that, share a little bit about how that understanding helps you to not be afraid of the experience that you're having in the panic attack, that can feel out of body, or they could feel debilitating, like you're dying, right? Because so many people responded and said, it feels like I'm dying, like I'm numb, tingling, and it's like it's the worst feeling, like, and because you've experienced it. So what is this understanding, and how does it help to come back to the things that you talked about, our natural state of peace, of tawakkul, of resilience, right? How does that help? And tie into that what you mentioned, riding the wave.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It does feel so overwhelming, that physical thing. I had somebody in my life who experienced me having panic attacks at a young age. They always thought I was sort of exaggerating. And then a few months ago, I got a phone call saying they're in the hospital, and I said they thought they're having a heart attack, and the doctor literally diagnosed it as panic attacks. And so it was for the first time that they went, "Oh, I understand I understand, like, this physical thing that you've been going through. Like it does affect you. It does have this physical aspect. And so what are you doing now?" And so I was given the opportunity to explain about, how our feelings are coming from our thinking, and that is a truth of this life. Just like the earth is round, it's not flat. Like, the truth is that our feelings are coming from our thought in the moment. And when we understand that, and everything comes back to that beautiful truth, it takes kind of that fear away. It takes that unknown away, and especially having an understanding also of physically what is happening to you, and understanding that we are one being, and that we are one. So the physical thing is related to your thought, and it's okay that you're going through that. You are okay, and you will get through it. And like I said about the waves, like, one of the things I always used to do, and I still find myself going into it time and time again, unfortunately, sometimes when I get kind of caught up, I sometimes try to suppress certain emotions. I think it's just because when you're a child, a lot of the time, this is a bad emotion, this is a good emotion. And so there were certain emotions that I really, like, I didn't want to feel. And I thought if I felt them, it meant I had, like, for example, if I was feeling anger, it meant I had to be really, really angry. And I thought it was like something explosive, kind of like panic. If I feel panic, it means I'm going to have a panic attack. But actually, when you allow yourself to feel whatever's coming up, whatever thoughts are coming up in the moment, allow yourself to, like, ride the wave of those emotions, they're not as intense. It's a ripple. It's not like a tsunami. But when you're suppressing it and suppressing it and suppressing it, you're holding it back. It comes out in other ways, and it can come out like a tsunami. And that's the difference, is allowing yourself the space to, I'm angry right now, and it's okay to be angry right now, and not take it out, lash out at people, but to ride the wave of it. I'm anxious right now. I don't need to pretend I'm not anxious. I'm just going to be with what I'm feeling. And it doesn't last as long, and it becomes very smooth because you're giving yourself that space to feel instead of trying to suppress things. If we weren't meant to feel all of the emotions, Allah wouldn't have made us as emotional beings. But Allah made us this way. That means there is something in anxiety that is good for us. There's something in anger that's good for us. There's something in sadness that's good for us. Happiness that's good for us. All of these things, but within balance. And allowing ourselves to feel them as they come gives us that balance.
Beautiful, beautiful. It was just ironic, I thought, to hear you describe panic attack as smooth. That could be that could be hard to grasp. What does that even mean, you know?
I know, I know. That's the thing when I talk about it, I remember where I was at back then. And I'm not acknowledging how hard it feels when you're in that space. But there is a way out of that space because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens doors and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you this for a reason. So like there is hope, you know, there's so much hope. And if we understand just how our bodies work, how our mind works, it's amazing the wisdoms that come through that. It really is. It's so beautiful. And I mean, the one thing that I always say is we have to remember to make dua because Allah's the only one that, you know, Allah doesn't change the condition of a people till they change what's within themselves. So we have to acknowledge that, you know, I need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help in this as well because he's the one that opens doors. He's the one that guides people. And when we ask Allah to guide us, he always guides us. So if you're struggling with panic, ask to be guided because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open up, will bring people in your life to teach you things. Like it's just incredible how, you know, Allah plans things in the most beautiful, beautiful way.
Well said. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that's just understanding the formula, right, of how things work, understanding how you work, your feelings, your psychology, your body, your physiology, and who you are. Having an understanding of all these things allows us to navigate the ups and downs and the roller coasters of life in a much more smooth way and come back to our natural state, our fitrah state of peace, of calm, of innate resilience and confidence and tawakkul, which is our natural state. And I love how you point out how like we're meant to have these feelings, and this feelings of panic and anxiety is like a warning sign. Okay, like come back to me, you know, like, you know, you went off path a little bit, come back to me. And when we can see it like that, it's not as scary because we're understanding how we work, we're understanding that we're okay. So like you said, it's more smooth riding the wave. And it may sound really foreign because this is not really being talked about in mainstream. It's just, you know, like there is a solution for this. It's not like you have to suffer with it your whole life. So it feels like, well, how? Well, that's why you have to join the Back to the Fitrah Mentoring Academy or work with the Back to the Fitrah specialist and expert like Melissa in anxiety and panic, and she can show you the how, inshallah. She can help you to get to the same place that she is in. So be mindful of that. And I wanted to I'm just going to scroll back through the comments and look at those two questions that we had, and perhaps we can touch on that. Let's see.
And just going back to what you just said,
Yeah.
just briefly about how people like aren't talking about it. I think because of there's so many unknowns out there, they just kind of want to put you in a position where you're medicated, in a position where you're going through certain therapy types, and they expect everybody to sort of fit this mold, but they're not understanding really what it is. And that's the gift of this, is really clearly understanding what a panic attack actually is and how it affects us and the solution for it. And it's so much simpler than what people are making it out there. They make it into like you have to take this 2-year program and you have to be doing this, and they want you to do so much, and there's actually nothing you need to do.
This technique, that technique,
Yeah.
change this, change that, and it's like being on a hamster wheel, going round and around, doing all
Yeah.
these things, but it's not solving the problem.
Well, that, and it might solve it for a little bit, but you're like, I figured it out, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work, and you're like, whoa. But for me, when I had a panic attack with this understanding, it wasn't like this didn't work. It was like, oh, I got caught in my thinking. Like it was very different. I could see it just in such clarity, which is so different from, you know, I failed, I couldn't do it, which is because there's so many of the programs out there are very complicated and they make it so difficult. And it's really not that difficult. Subhanallah.
SubhanAllah. You hear that? Whoever's watching, do you hear that? It's really not that difficult, and Melissa can show you how.
Yes, inshallah.
So one of the questions was, what is the strongest tool to battle with anxiety?
Um, Tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and this understanding. Like really learning about the inside out paradigm, learning about how our thought works, asking Allah for that wisdom to gain clarity in this, because it's not the thing with this truth, it's not something intellectual, and that's what I was trying to do with it. I was trying to intellectualize it. I was like, I'm going to get this, I'm going to be the best at it because I'm going to like learn about every aspect of it, and that's not it. Like, it's actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opening a wisdom in you and giving you the ability to see something so clearly. And so remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking him for the guidance, asking him for the help, and being open to going on a journey.
I love that. How simple is that? That wasn't very complicated, the solution.
No. And if you heard like some of the plans that they had for me, like you have to do this for 2 months and you're going to do this and you're going to switch to this medication and that you're going to do, like it was so complicated and I wouldn't even remember what I was doing half the time. And it was just too much, and it didn't seem necessary. And now being in this space, I see how much they actually don't understand what it is. Like they actually don't get it. They really, really don't, because there's so much simplicity in this life, and that's the beauty of it. Like if you look at Islam, it's very simple, it's beautiful. The basis of this life is very simple and beautiful, but are we willing to actually submit to that beauty and to that simplicity? A lot of the times we're not. We're trying to make it so much bigger and so much more complicated, but the solutions actually are very simple.
That's such a great point, because one of the things that you said was asking Allah to see, and this is not an intellectual knowledge, right? And when that's the thing, when we turn to Allah and ask for help, are we sincerely willing to accept and submit, was one of the words you used, right? Which is part of being a Muslim, which is part of the definition of Islam. Are we sincerely willing to submit to Allah? And that means turning to him with with humility. You know, it's kind of like silencing the ego within us that gets in the way of us really seeing this, landing here. You know, I like to say landing here in your heart, so then it can transmit into your mind, and then you get it, right? You don't get it here. You have to get it here first, and then the thoughts flow that you need to get through this. But I think that's the missing part too, is because I know in teaching this, a lot of times we can get it intellectually, but we're not really getting it, because just like that question your friend asked you, are you really trusting Allah?
Mm-hmm.
You say you are, but are you?
Yeah. Is that actually genuine? And I actually had to admit to myself that I wasn't. And that was hard. It's really hard when
Yeah,
you
because
think
it requires you quieting your ego and telling it to take a back seat.
yes. And that's really challenging. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I was like, whoa, like I am not. I'm thinking that somehow I'm controlling this. I'm thinking that somehow I am in control and I'm gonna, and that's not what submission is. That's not what we're supposed to be doing in this life. We're supposed to, we take the steps, but we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in charge of the outcome, not us. It's never in our hands. And so like letting go of those reins, even though we never had them to begin with, but mentally we think we do, and letting go of that and just being in that place of, Allah, please open doors for me. Please show me what I need right now. And it always happens, because if you ask for guidance, Allah always guides us, because that's what Allah wants us to do. Allah wants us to turn to him, wants us to ask him. But do we do it? Are we, or we just say we do, but really we're living a different way, you know?
Yeah, that reminds me of the verse in the Quran where Allah says, you say you believe, but you won't be left to say you believe, you'll be tested.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we all get the test that we need in order to keep elevating and growing and evolving.
Absolutely.
Thank you
And
for that.
we're never burdened with more than we can bear. So that test is something you can bear. And that's something that really changed things for me, because I was like, if I'm going through this right now, I'm capable of this. And that's very different than feeling like, whoa, like this is too much. Like, no, I'm capable of this. It might feel like too much right now. It might feel like I have no way out. I might need to reach out to some people to talk to, who knows, like there's so much going on, but I know deep down inside that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't test me with more than I can bear. I've got this.
Yeah, especially when you understand what feelings are, what they mean, what they don't mean. So even when it feels like you're not okay, you know that you are okay because
Yes.
Allah won't burden you with more than you can handle. Isn't that
Yeah.
beautiful?
It is beautiful. And it also acknowledges the feeling, because you sometimes feel like you aren't okay. You do feel like sometimes you're in a situation, you're like, oh wow, really? I can handle this? Like I don't think
I'm
so.
counting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can. And coming back to that, knowing that no, I can. I can. What do I need to learn from this? And submitting to him and asking him to help you.
It's the knowing in those moments, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for that um, profoundly simplistic answer. I mean, that's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Okay, the other question was, how do we manage our relationship with family members? I guess that's when you're in the having anxiety and panic, because we know that family members can trigger more intense emotions, you know? What would
Absolutely.
you say to that? Managing family members during your anxiety or your panic attacks?
What I did with some of my family members before I even knew what panic attacks were was I sat them down and I explained to them exactly what I was feeling. And I think that that's really important for them to sort of understand where you're at, what it feels like, what you're experiencing. Try to allow them to be part of that world, because it's very easy to shut yourself out, to kind of, turn away from the people you love, to go into sort of, hibernation mode. I did that 3 times in my life, where I was in like quarantine before quarantine was a thing, because I just felt like nothing was safe, and I didn't understand that, there were so many people out there that actually were wanting to know what was going on with me. So I think it's very important to express to people that seem to be willing to hear it. But another thing is also dua, because there was someone in my life who always thought that I was making it up, that it wasn't true. And so I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give them clarity, to, make a better connection between us. And I wasn't expecting them to have panic attacks, but they ended up having one. And that shifted a lot in our relationship, because they ended up actually seeing it. So making dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitate whatever is needed for them to be able to be with you on this journey, instead of like countering it, and making it more difficult. Asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring whatever is necessary to help mend those relationships and help bring people into your life that can and you know what, the thing is, even if people around us don't get it, we're still okay, because for as much as we want people to understand us, we all have separate realities, so we can express this to them, but they might never get it. And that's because they're in their world and we're in ours. And so even if they don't get it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring people in your life to help you on this journey. It might not be the people you were expecting, but there will be somebody there, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you turn to him, he brings beautiful people to you.
He knows exactly what you need when you need it, right? Right on
Yeah,
time, it arrives.
exactly. And sometimes that's not family. Sometimes that's not friends. Sometimes that's new people. Like, you just never know.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, you have given us a world of information and insight and depth into what's happening in a panic attack. What does this anxiety with the special effect mean? And some tips. And it's not like a turn on, turn off type of thing. I think that, maybe if you could talk a little bit about that, like it is a journey. And sometimes the intense bad feeling of the experience, like, of dying, feeling like you're dying is such a horrible experience. um and all the other physical manifestations of it, that we just wanted to stop, we just wanted to end, and that we could be putting more pressure on ourselves, resisting that and trying to control it, to get it to stop, that it can actually kind of be like putting a monkey wrench in the journey to resolving this. Talk a little bit about that if you could.
Yeah. I mean, that's really when you're not like, because it feels so bad. Like I'm not sitting here saying that having a panic attack will ever feel good. It's not meant to feel good because it's
Yeah.
meant to get us out of danger. So it's meant to make us move. So if you're like sitting and you have a panic attack, seems like out of the blue, it's not, it doesn't feel good. But subhanallah, you get to this point where instead of living up in that anxiety point, you're kind of more down here because you're understanding your thinking. But sometimes you start to slowly creep back up because we're creatures of habit, right? So things you've learned as a child, sometimes a test will come in your life and you thought, I'm not going to fall back into this pattern again. And then you slowly see yourself, like I found myself creeping back up to that anxiety, and I didn't see it and I didn't realize it. I saw things happening around me and I started to fall sort of into my old pattern of, I can't feel this, I shouldn't feel this, I need to change this, I need to do something, this doesn't feel good. And I got back up to that state of just being really, really anxious. And when that happens, hormones are released, you're in a hyper anxious state, your thoughts start to go. I tend not to sleep well in those moments, I tend to be very aggravated, irritated. And so it is very easy to fall back into those panic attacks because you've kind of got back up to that state. But the difference is you see it. When you might need to fall again, you might need to fall. Like you might not, sometimes you see it here, sometimes you see it when you're in that panic attack. It depends on the situation, but the harder you fall, the bigger the lesson. And so there was something in that you really needed to learn. So for me, when I had that, like the last panic attack I had, there was just so many aha moments there of me realizing I'm okay. I've experienced it again. It sucks. Like there's nothing pleasant about a panic attack, but I'm okay. I can get through this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me the tools to get through this. Allah gave me the clarity of what our thinking is. Allah gave me the understanding of what's physically happening to me. I'm okay. I can get through this even when I fall back into that pattern again, because we're human. It's going to happen. And we are meant to be tested. Understanding the nature of this dunya is very important. This dunya is not Jannah. It will never be Jannah. We will never reach. I felt like because I had this understanding, I was going to get to this state of like peace and zen and everything is amazing. And so when I went into another panic attack, I was like, yeah, wake up. Like, this is not dunya. What is, I went into this like completely alternate reality that is not this life, right? This dunya is a test. We are meant to be tested. We are meant to learn. And if we didn't fall, we wouldn't be turning back to Allah to ask him to help pick us back up, And so we are meant to fall in this life, but we are okay while we're falling because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always there with us.
I love that. I love that. And you put it so eloquently and so beautifully. The harder you fall, the bigger the lessons. And we're meant to fall, to turn back to Allah, and he's there right with us. It's just so complete, like, and whole. You talked about earlier, you talked about feeling broken. We were never broken. We weren't created that way. We weren't born that way. And this whole circle, it's just like it fits so perfectly that there are no missing pieces. Everything fits perfectly, when you see it from that perspective. So
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair for explaining it to us from that perspective. Rahma has another question saying, do you have any triggers after recovering? And I think you covered that a little bit of, it's, I mean, you go ahead and say what you want to say about that.
Because like I was saying before, we're human and we've been raised a certain way. So we've had like some programming from our youth, from the way we've been, from the way we've lived our lives. And so even though you gain clarity, you gain this understanding, you still fall because there's stuff that's going to come at you that will be reminding you of something in the past that will get you going down a path. It happens. Like we are meant to experience this life that way, and the beauty of it is that we can come back to seeing that we are okay, and we were okay then. We were okay in the past when we were going through these things, and we're okay now, and we will always be okay, and knowing that these things are happening for a reason.
Yeah, I love that, because like you said, it's happening for a reason. So there's something Allah is trying to show us. There's something that needs, like that trigger is always pointing to something is not right internally. We need to course correct something, right? It's like that. What is it that Allah is trying to show me or teach me or have me correct in myself so he can correct, so he can change my external circumstances, situations, right? Like I'm asking, and a lot of times, I mean, I think we realize this being in the same academy together, and back to the Fitrah Mentoring Academy, is that from all of our experiences that I lost my train of thought, but you know, oh, we could be asking for something, and this is the answer to the dua that we've been making, but it's coming in a form of test, because we don't just get handed what we're asking for on a silver platter. We get the experience. Yeah. So we go through it and we can learn, because that's how how humans learn, is by experience.
So it's so true. I remember one time I had been making a very specific dua, and then all of a sudden it came through like exactly how I had asked for it, but I was like, I didn't mean it that way. Like I wasn't, that was really, I didn't mean it that way. But I needed it to be that way. Like, because if it hadn't been that way, it had been the way in my head, I wouldn't have learned what I learned. And that, it was really funny because I was like, subhanAllah, like Allah always answers your du'as, but it's not necessarily the way you want it, but it's always best for you. That's the thing. It's always for your benefit. Nothing ever happens to the believer except for that it's for their benefit. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answering it in a way, and we're like, no, like I don't understand this. Like, what's happening?
I take it back. I don't want it.
But I know, really, it's such a gift. And you're like, oh, maybe it takes months or years for you to see it, but you're like, subhanallah, like had it been the way I wanted it, that would have been really bad. And how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows and gave to us is like, oh, the gratitude.
Yeah. And the humbleness of like, what do I know? I think I know, but what do I really know?
Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
It puts you in your place, really. Yeah. Like who are you and who is Allah?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And you need to be in that space, because if you have even like the mustard seed of like arrogance, you won't enter Jannah. And so in order to erase all of that from you, you have to be put into tests because of the nature of who we are as humans. So we need to go through these things and subhanallah, and gain the wisdom through them, inshallah. Like that's the beauty of a believer, is we're looking for that wisdom.
Yeah, beautiful. I think that. Okay, so one other question was, okay, Shaima Haider is saying, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Apologies for asking in between the ongoing talk while you were both speaking, and if it's already been answered before, I got delayed on. So I've missed the beginning of it. Will this be available later? Yes, we are having it. It'll be on this page. It's recorded, and you can go back and listen to it at any time from the beginning, and it will make a lot more sense. Rahma is saying our tests are cleansers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this will be the last question that you can address, Melissa, and then we'll kind of wrap it up, because we've been going for like an hour and you've just given us so much. Yeah, I know it doesn't seem like an hour, but like I'm mindful of your time and let what you've shared with us absorb, because it's not just about like hearing, but like settling and absorbing, and where is this knowledge taking us,
Mm-hmm.
So okay, Rahma also asks, how do you maintain positivity during the process?
I don't think it's about maintaining positivity, really. It's about just being with whatever you need to be with. Like if I'm trying to maintain positivity through a panic attack, I'm going to be countering that panic attack and probably putting myself into a longer panic attack because I'm trying to make it positive instead of allowing myself to feel it, get through it, and then learn. Really, when we try to counter things, we try to make things, try to twist things into a different version of what we're actually feeling, we're countering our own selves. Because whatever is coming up for us, like we have so many thoughts, but whatever thoughts we're kind of holding on to, we're meant to ride that. We're meant to feel that. We're meant to go through that. When we try to switch it, we try to shift it, we're not allowing ourselves the space to get through what we need to get through. Our minds are created in a way that we can just allow them to be, and we will be okay. But when we try to like I'm gonna force it, I'm gonna switch it.
We like to call it wrestling with yourself.
Yeah,
You know, it's like
yeah.
it's torture internally because it's like attacking yourself.
Yes, it is. It is. And you're not actually, it seems like from, because I used to do it, I used to think, no, I'm doing something positive. But in reality, I actually wasn't loving myself because I wasn't allowing myself to be. I wasn't allowing myself to feel. I was trying to force an alternate reality. And that's not where I was at. And so allowing yourself to be with it, like anxiety doesn't feel great, but if you just go with it, you get past it and you move on, subhanallah, and you come back to that state of tawakkul and knowing you're okay.
Beautiful, beautiful. I am just, in awe of your experience and how you have the ability to explain it and to give us that hope, that hope that Allah has told us about and keep pointing us in that direction. It is very hopeful. And it gives us also the idea of that there is a way out. You don't have to suffer like this or through anxiety or panic attacks, for as long as you think you're sentenced for. It doesn't have to be that way. And there is a way out. There is a solution. And Shaima is saying, feels like my brain going mish inside the skull cavity. Yeah. We talked about a lot of those feelings that come up, for sure, that come up in how you're experiencing the panic attack. So there you have it, lovelies. Thanks for joining us and thanks for being here with us. And if you want to learn more about how Melissa helps people with anxiety and panic, you can reach her at lifebeyondpanicattacks@gmail.com. I'll post it in the comments so you can reach out to her and inshallah connect with her. She can support you and help you inshallah on your own journey of healing and overcoming and coming back to your natural state of peace and tawakkul. Jazakallah khair, Melissa, for your time, your expertise, and your vulnerability and authenticity in showing up, talking about your own story and giving hope to everyone else suffering.
My pleasure. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me. It's such an honor. Jazakallah khair.
Wa iyaakum. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, peace, blessings.
Assalamu alaikum.